Turns out all the pearl clutching over a Hamas enthusiast who wanted to stay in America was perhaps overdone. A judge ruled that DHS could deport Mahmoud Khalil. The government says he helped organize some of the most violent student protests over the past 18 months and poses a risk to the United States. He's not a citizen, here as a permanent resident. His lawyer said DHS couldn't deport him for terrorist sympathies because of the First Amendment, and they have appealed. The judge gave Khalil until later this month for that appeal, but this weekend the Trump administration will have to decide what to do about perhaps a far more important case, at least when it comes to public relations, because they admit they made a mistake deporting Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They didn't just deport him, they sent him to the El Salvador Supermax prison. The Supreme Court ordered him back to the United States. Just tonight, President Trump said he would.
Is that the one that was not Tren de Araqua, but he was MS-13?
Just the one that they've said needs to come back.
No, but was he MS-13? Because I only know by that. I mean, I don't know which one, but if the Supreme Court said bring somebody back, I would do that. I respect the Supreme Court.
With us now, Tom Dupree, former Deputy Assistant Attorney General under George W. Bush, Shan, former federal prosecutor, counsel to then Attorney General Janet Reno. Gentlemen, good to see both of you. Shan, if you were talking to the Attorney General's counsel in terms of bringing back Garcia, they don't really have a choice, do they?
No. I would also say, please give an answer to who you're sending to court so they can actually say something to the judge.
When you, yeah, there was much made of what happened in the courtroom earlier. Take a listen.
Today in court, for those of you who were there or have heard anything about it, it was the epitome of the lack of due process in a court proceeding in this country. It was shocking. The immigration judge had made up her mind before the hearing even started what she was going to do.
Okay, so that was the hearing as it related to Mahmoud Khalil. We'll get to that case in a minute. We're going to play now what happened in court with Garcia. He was the alleged MS-13 gang member that was deported.
Where is Mr. Abrego Garcia right now? What has the government done so far to try to bring him back? What is the government planning to do to carry out the court's order? The government refused to provide any of those pieces of information that the judge ordered them to provide. And they even refused to answer the question about where Kilmar Abrego Garcia is today.
All right, a few things here, Tom. I think the administration was waiting for the president to weigh in and decide whether he wanted to fight this or not, number one. Number two, they're trying to figure out how to get him back at a time when he can have a press conference and as few people possible will watch it.
I agree with you on both fronts. I mean, look, the fact is I do think that there is kind of a tendency, certainly in the Justice Department, to look to the president for guidance. And I think the president
That's a new thing, right? That's not a, that's a Trump thing.
Yeah, usually you don't wait in that respect, but they do now. And so, look, I think what was going on here is that it was good to hear the president say he respects the orders of the Supreme Court. He's going to bring him back. I mean, you know, from kind of a lawyer's perspective, mission accomplished. They're going to make it happen. I do suspect they'll be able to facilitate his return in short order. And to your point, I think they will want to do it in a way that minimizes the likelihood he becomes a hero to the left upon his return.
Well, look, there's going to be a book deal. There's going to be a movie deal. We tried hard at NewsNation to figure out whether we could substantiate the gang MS-13 allegations. Could not do it. So there'll be a lot looked into about him. Moving on to this issue of Mahmoud Khalil, and I think this may be the one that goes to a much larger point. Shan, the group there says, his lawyers say they are going to appeal, as you heard from that soundbite earlier. They don't think they got due process. What grounds do they appeal on?
Well, they can appeal really on the factual grounds for what the immigration judge decision reached. And to me, I'm not sure I would agree with them on not having gotten due process. I mean, I think the critical point here is process finally occurred. They got before an immigration judge. There's also the habeas petition that's still going on in the New Jersey matter. And that really goes more to the question of the constitutionality of the provision they're relying on, which is Rubio says, I decide foreign policy. This is a foreign policy matter. And that's really a big issue for them.
Right. And so to play this out a little bit, this is a First Amendment challenge against the idea that the Secretary of State can unilaterally declare an immigrant, not somebody who is a U.S. citizen, a threat to national security based just on speech.
Yeah, that's it. And look, a few things. First, Shan, when you say that you're not sure about their claims that they were denied due process, I am sure. They were not denied due process. I completely disavow. I mean, when they're saying that they weren't given due process in the immigration court hearing, totally wrong. Look, the other thing is that immigration judges don't sit to adjudicate First Amendment claims. They're limited in the types of things they can consider. To Shan's point, the federal judge who's going to hear his habeas case does have wider authority to consider First Amendment arguments and the like, all part of our robust system of due process. He will get his day in court before he's removed from the United States.
Any predictions on whether or not, and I guess this would be a huge thing, right? If all of a sudden you take this law that dates back to 9/11 and says, all right, no longer can you deport someone who has voiced sympathies for terrorist organizations, that's a big change.
Yeah, the problem with this provision of the law is it really hasn't been fleshed out legally. I mean, they've used it so rarely. I mean, it's like...
They're going to use it a lot more.
They're going to use it, right, exactly. And that's why it's going to be a big deal, and that's why he's going to be here a long time, because it's going to be appealed in piecemeal over and over again before it finally reaches the Supreme Court, which may kick it back downstairs again. So it'll be a while.
Any predictions?
Well, look, my prediction is that this is not the ideal person, if I were, in kind of the shoes of people challenging the Trump administration, that I would hold up as a poster child for First Amendment rights. Because the government has said that they have evidence that he is not just expressing political views, but he's whipping up, violent anti-Semitic protests and that sort of thing. So again, he's not the guy that you're going to want to put up and say he is someone who should be allowed to stay in the country to exercise his First Amendment rights. I think there can and will be a lot more sympathetic people out there to press that legal claim.
And the problem is, once you press it and get an answer, sometimes that doesn't work out so well.
Bad facts make bad laws, what the lawyers will tell you. Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.